Welcome back. The game is afoot. We're here with Herlock Sholmes and Mikataba. And we need to distract this sailor here so we can get some investigation going, which I think the only option really around here is like, what the hell is this? Like, is this going to distract him if I mess with this? This must be a mousetrap, I think. Perhaps I could distract the crewman's attention with this somehow. Try it. Choo choo. That sounds like Big Mouse and Trap. Choo choo. I will bring bucket of water later and put out of misery. Later? I don't like the sound of that. In any case, my dear fellow, that was quite unconvincing. Only Japanese mice make a choo sound. Oh really, Sholmes? And pray tell, what sound do Russian mice make? Pee-pee, naturally. Though also quite unconvincing, I readily admit. So go ahead, Mikataba, do a pee-pee this time. No, thank you. I'm sure I can come up with an alternative solution. Right, maybe the alarm? This would appear to be an alarm bell. Well, hell would break loose if that thing were to ring. Whole crew would know about it. Set it off. Here goes then. Pardon me in advance. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. You! What are you doing? If we were at sea, that would be a very bad problem. What's going on down there? Seaman Stroganov, report at once. Sorry, sir. Nothing to report. It was just a stupid trick. No, not by me. By world fam... no. As I told you. Now, Sholmes, now. Done. Not even 5 seconds, eh? Well, don't stand there gawping at my brilliance, Mikataba. In we go. Oh, yes. "3rd of November, SS Kraus. First class cabin number 2. So the thing on the wall's been moved. Good gracious. It would appear that the occupant of this cabin did indeed disembark rather hurriedly. There's clothes on the floor there. There's shishiros without question. But it seems we are just a little too late. Yes, by about 2 hours. Still, whilst we're here, we should investigate thoroughly. There may well be 2 hours worth of clues to find in here. But that burly crewman may return at any moment, Sholmes. Indeed he may. Which makes this all the more thrilling. Alright, well straight away I'm like, what's going on with the picture over here? Like, because you can see that it's been moved, the warning thing, so... The wall is slightly different colour just here, do you see? Indeed. What you have observed arises when a frame that has been hanging for some time is removed. Perhaps your friend is an art thief. Now there's a bold deduction worthy of a great detective, I'm sure. It may very well be the elusive thief who has been plaguing France's galleries of late. I think perhaps we should focus on our attentions elsewhere, Sholmes, don't you? An outline on the wall. Feel as though I might have spotted something of a similar shape and size elsewhere. Yeah, right over there. Right there. These are the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Additionally, there are severe punishments for stowing away in wardrobes and/or travel cases. I feel the rules have increased since I last read them. Probably just my imagination. What about the fact that they're not straight on the wall? Doesn't that strike you? You may be right. Probably just your imagination, though, a trifle. And you know what I always say, Mikataba, there is nothing important about trifles. It's probably just my imagination, but I think that might be slightly off. We're not gonna see about moving it, no? Plenty of reading material to keep passengers occupied on the long sea voyage. Found the mixture of classic literature and easy reading to be most satisfactory, I must say. Whoever stocked this bookcase was a hopeless heretic. There's no copy of the Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, my dear fellows. I'm afraid it's just me, but no, you're quite right. More blasphemous than overlooking the Bible. I shall leave a copy behind, I just happen to have one with me. You're a true missionary of the Church of Great Detectives, aren't you? Right, the trunk. That's a very sizable trunk indeed. Sashiro is partial to all things large, and a rather clumsy fellow if he failed to notice he'd left that behind. Perhaps he left it on purpose. It's lighter than you might think, but still a hindrance to a speedy escape. Pity. It's locked, so we can't look inside. Surely 5 seconds from now the situation will be quite different though. Sadly not, it has a 7-digit combination lock. And I'm not in a morose enough mood to work through all the combinations at present. Yes, indeed. This is the waste paper basket. Look, and there's still rubbish inside. Indeed, and let us pry. I've discovered recently I have penchant for exploring the contents of others' waste paper baskets. I sincerely hope only for your work. Anything? Ah! Here we have a notice issued to passengers from 3 days ago. 3 days ago? The night before we arrived in London, then. When I was still aboard myself. Evacuation drill notice 31st of October. Following departure from the port of Dunkirk... Hey, hold on. Ah, yes, there was an evacuation drill. I remember now. For our safety and security, all first passengers were constantly under the watchful eye of the crew. So it was a welcome relief to have some privacy for once. Evacuation drill itinerary has been entered into the court record. Okay, well, I'd like to see that, please. Like I haven't got my normal checky thing. I ain't got the court record. I'll say we'll check the clothes. That's a substantial heap of clothes on the floor. An overcoat, shirts, a dressing gown, momohiki work trousers, a tanzan robe, a haramaki waistband, clearly the clothing of a Japanese man. And clearly Japanese men are unaccustomed to the culture of the wardrobe. Looks to me as if they've been thrown in a heap like that. In something of a hurry. Indeed, you could help yourself to a Japanese man's shirt, perhaps. I'm sure you made mention of packing too few. I'd very likely drown in one of Seishiro's shirts. No, I'll just buy any extras I need, I think. Okay, so... according to the report I was given, Narahodo was concealed himself in Asogi's wardrobe. Indeed he was, and it was of a similar size to this one. Ah, you must climb inside yourself, my dear fellow. What? Whatever for? It was the site of my first fateful meeting with Mr. Narahodo. You can experience the moment for yourself now, complete with my dramatic rhetoric. Come along now, in you go. It will only take a moment. Really, Shlom, surely you can just tell me what you said. Well, I uttered some brilliant remark and opened the wardrobe to reveal the stowaway murderer. I think I'll just read about it in The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. Probably for the best. Right. There's a speaking tube here, look. It's been stoppered with some cloth. So the voices of the crewmen on the bridge aren't an annoyance, I suppose. Or indeed, so that the voices in this cabin aren't heard elsewhere. Could something have happened in here that was for no one's ears? No one else's ears, do you think? Either that, or it could be to prevent snakes from entering. That's really become a favorite case of yours, hasn't it? Quite the exquisite glass, I must say. See here how it... Is something wrong, Shlomes? Ice, Mikataba, ice. What opulence the first-class passengers enjoy. Chilled drinks. Pardon? Could it be that the steamship is equipped with an electrically refrigerated cold room, do you think? Well, it is a luxury liner, after all. They have enormous refrigerators for storing all sorts of lavish produce as well as ice. On our voyage from Japan, we enjoyed culinary delights from all over the world. Suddenly, Mikataba, the sight of you is making my mouth water. I haven't taken on the flavor of the food I ate, you know? Crap. You are still here? Able Seaman Stroganoff, hello again. I was beginning to think you would never materialize. You are waiting for me? Of course, I was expecting you to burst in with a hearty Russian profanity far sooner. I was in trouble with Captain because of trick you played before. Poor innocent chicken. It is all your fault. Check. Ship is leaving port soon. Get off now. Of course, we shall disembark presently, my dear fellow, but first, there is something that must be done. What are you talking about? Why, naturally. The debunking of your deceit and the barring of the truth. Kakoi? I'm afraid I see through your lies. For one thing, Mr. Jigoku has not yet left the vessel at all. And for another, my dear Seaman Stroganoff, you know exactly where the man is, even as we speak, don't you? How can you? Good gracious, Shlomes, you mean you've worked it out? All of it? This great detective, after all. It's really been too long, hasn't it, old friend? 10 years, no less. So, would you care to join me for a dance of my inimitable logic and reasoning? Nothing would please me more. What is this? We have but minutes until the vessel puts to sea. No games now. Here we go. Time is of the essence. Mr. Stroganoff, allow me to remind you of your earlier claim. You told us that Jigoku left the ship some 2 hours ago. Duh, that is what I said. Sadly, that was a rather clumsy lie. You see, there is something in this room that quite clearly contradicts it. What? Ah, yes, of course. I see you've noticed it too, Mikataba. Then please, do take the lead. What in this cabin shows the impossibility of Jigoku having disembarked 2 hours ago? Let's see what the last 3 years have done to your observational skills then, Mikataba. It's been 10 years since we last did this, Jones, not 3. Why, of course it has, quite. Now all the clues are here in this cabin for your eyes to see. But as I always say, you must not merely look, but observe. Observe and the answers become clear. So, impress me. I think I can manage that. What's the ice? It would have melted, wouldn't it? Like, it would have melted.
Take that!
It's 2 hours. Alright. Perhaps you should have cleared away that glass. How curious that the ice shouldn't have melted despite it being abandoned 2 hours ago. It would appear that the man was here in this very cabin until moments before our arrival. With this well-chilled glass in hand. Get your mind off the refreshment, Shlomes. One might even conclude that somebody informed him of our boarding. Would you agree, Mr. Stroganoff? But why would Seishiro run from us? Before we consider that question, allow me to confirm one small matter. Would I be correct in saying that these first-class cabins of the SS Grouse are the same ones in which you and Mr. Jigoku were accommodated on your voyage from Japan? Ah, that's right. They are. I was in this cabin next door and Seishiro was... Yes. 50 days in this very cabin during our voyage. As I suspected. Well, you see. There are traces in this cabin of a dark secret that Mr. Jigoku had to hide. What traces? I know nothing about this. Ah, this is news to you, is it, Mr. Stroganoff? Shlomes, what exactly are you getting at? As I said, there are traces in this cabin of some nefarious activity. Something that appears out of place, which I'm quite sure won't have escaped your notice. Nope, noticed instantly. Something out of place in here. That's the key to this, Mikitaba. The remnants of the dark deed that took place in here are being masked by something quite... I didn't even get to the word. I like the word at least. Incongruous. Yes. I must say, I didn't foresee ever doing this dance of deduction with you again, Mikitaba. No, quite. But life is full of unexpected twists and turns, as we well know. Now then, let's see if I can't uncover the truth here. Yes, you have the floor, my dear fellow. Well, take that! Straight away. This little dance. It's the rules of passage in this frame here. They're obviously out of place. The way they're hanging crooked on the wall, as if they were put there in a hurry. Yes, as I'm sure you already concluded. The frame was originally over here. The shape and size are a perfect match. Ah, you're right. When did frame move? Hardly the most observant of crewmen, are you, Mr. Stroganoff? I would think your captain is quite justified in having his reservations about your reliability. Sure. Oh dear, that really seemed to touch a nerve. So, Mikitaba, why don't you lift that frame off the wall? Oh. That looks like a bullet hole. What? Who has been shooting walls? I see, the projectile has been removed. Clearly, the careful occupant of this room has already disposed of it. Now then, Mr. Stroganoff. I have the distinct impression that you're attempting to shield said occupant. I don't know what you're talking about. Why would I try to protect Eastern Stranger? Ah, so we're talking about the same man, I see. I'm sure we can get to the bottom of this in no time. Aren't you? What? Because there's some very noteworthy evidence that explains the reason why you're lying for the man. Yes, you've been told to keep up this pretense as clearly shown by... I really don't know how to approach this one, Shlomes. Ah, my dear Mikitaba, simply keep first principles in mind. Study your subject from every angle. So, swing round, he's got something in his pocket on his back, something like that then. And I'm quite sure that you'll see it. In fact, I'd put a wager on it. So I'm to glare at the fellow from all sides. Well, I can certainly do that. Right then, what we got? It's like, it's the money there, it's the money.
Take that!
I'm loving this. Like Shlomes properly in his prime kind of thing. No time for messing around sort of thing. It's almost too obvious for words. Quite. The universal language of the world. Money. Ah. And I'd wager that the Eastern fellow in question is Seishiro Jigoku. Yes? Sure. So, I presume you realize what this means? There are clear signs that a crime has been committed in this cabin. And the way you're going, sir, you'll find yourself accused of being an accomplice. But I believe you know, Mr. Stroganoff. You know where Mr. Jigoku is hiding in this precise moment in time. He's clearly in the trunk. As always, Mikitaba, matters of deduction, the furtive glance is your unfaltering ally. Yes, I think you're onto something there, Shlomes. You found the chink in this burly fellow's armor. We need only follow the man's gaze to know where our prey is hiding. The slightest flicker of the pupils, a minutely delayed blink. Nothing escapes my attention, even that which is barely perceptible. You could hardly call this barely perceptible, Shlomes. The man's turned his entire head. It's not exactly what you described as a furtive glance, is it? It's almost too obvious. We shall let your tapping toes decide, my dear fellow. Okay, it's just like staring right down at the trunk.
Take that!
You turned immediately to look at this large trunk, didn't you? Ah, the truth is, Shishiro Jigoku was unable to escape from the ship in time. And is, at this very moment, doing his best to stifle his breath inside his trunk. If he still has a breath to take, I fear he may be running dangerously low on air. I imagine he didn't count on us making a nuisance of ourselves for quite so long. I think it would be in everyone's best interest for us to open the trunk as quickly as possible. But how can we? Are you forgetting about the combination lock? We don't know the 7-digit code. The combination lock can be opened from inside the trunk. Therefore, there must have been an arrangement for somebody to open it after our departure. Of course. In short, before Jigoku hid himself inside that trunk, he must have told somebody the 7-digit number for the lock. And I'm sure you can confirm that, Mr. Stroganoff. Gulp. No, I know nothing about the combination code. So what? It's not Shlomes, it's the code number, but upside down, isn't it? So it's like 5, 6. I don't know. I'm trying to. I'm trying to see like what it would look like upside down in my head. Don't move a muscle, my good seaman. Huh? Now, Mikitaba, would you do the honors and open the trunk? How on earth do you expect me? It's a 7-digit number, remember? Quickly now, we have little time. Flip it. Oh. Okay, so, okay, so I can review the scene. Okay, so return to the question. 5. So it's gotta be 5. I'm not sure on that one. Okay, so 5. That's a 3. That's a 1. That's a 0. That's a 4 and then a 5. Okay, so what could it be? It's got to be from 1 to 5, so it's not a 6. It could be squiggly 2. Squiggly 2. So 5, 2, 3, 1, 0, 4, 5. Right?
Take that!
That's it. That did it. It's open. You had to meddle, didn't you? Hi. Well, Eugen, you've found me now. Shishiro. I was really hoping beyond hope not to find you here, you know. But you're not entirely unsurprised, I take it. No, quite. I just wished it was some other way. Well, are you ever going to introduce me? Ah, your reputation precedes you, Mr. Sholmes. I've read stories of many of your exploits. Excuse my manners, Sholmes. This is Mr. Jigoku, my old friend and traveling companion. The devil is in the details, Mikitaba. I believe you meant to say, your old friend and traveling companion. Who made the cowardly decision to flee the country without a word to anyone when things turned sour. I see my reputation precedes me as well. What an honor. Well, says Shiro, are you going to explain all this? You know it all by now, I imagine. What you didn't know, of course, is that 3 days ago, on the night before arrival in Britain, an attempt was made on my life here on this very ship. By the Reaper at the Bailey. Yes, I've since heard. Because you were once prosecuted by the Reaper, weren't you? 10 years ago now, mind you. And I had no idea at the time what a dangerous individual he was. Anyway, when we arrived in London to find the symposium was postponed until goodness knows when, it became all too apparent to me that I might very well be targeted again. So you decided to flee the capital without saying a word to me about it? I'm afraid so, yes. Of course, I realize now that I really ought to have confided in you. Somewhat surprising, I must say. What is? Well, first-class cabins aboard luxury steamships are in very short supply. It's more than a little hard to believe that this one just happened to be available. So says the protagonist of some colourful short stories. Well, I don't care for your opinion. The cabin did just happen to be available, so I purchased a ticket, and here I am. I've just seen for myself the obvious remnants of that incident in this cabin. So you'd already purchased your return ticket before we even docked in Dover, had you? To prevent anyone else taking this cabin and seeing the evidence, is that it? Eugen, I have nothing to say to you. Well, in a mere 5 minutes, this ship will set off on its onward voyage and not make port again until Italy. I'm afraid we must insist that you disembark with us at once. You have no jurisdiction over my movements. We have this, says Shiro. Take it. What is it? It's a subpoena from the Old Bailey. You're a man of the law. You know what the ramifications of ignoring a document like this from the British courts would be. You came prepared then, Eugen. Come on. Let's go. One moment. What is it, Sholmes? Inside Mr. Jigoku's trunk. Oh. Found this rather fascinating trinket. What is that? Says Shiro. I can't help you, I'm afraid. Some small component from something. But what? I have no idea. By the look on his face, I think he genuinely doesn't know. I do. Well, let us pocket it as a small souvenir of our brief sojourn in France. The small component has been entered into the court record. Well, young Naruhodo, I think we've done as much as we can, I'm afraid. The rest will be on the shoulders of you and your assistant. Third of November, 12:10 p.m. in the Old Bailey courtroom. Kazuma Sogi, I know you and I know you wouldn't lie, but still there's no doubt that you're holding something back. You know more than you're saying. During the past 30 minutes while this court was adjourned, all possible efforts were expended. But sadly, Mr. Jigoku's whereabouts could not be ascertained. We must accept the unfortunate conclusion that the Reaper has already done the deed. There's no sense in wasting any more of the court's time. The prosecution calls for an immediate verdict.
Objection!
No, the trial cannot end now. You're a Japanese man, Ryunosuke. You should know when to lay down your sword. And you should know never to presume when the battle is won. The court has already been presented with all the evidence and heard all relevant testimony. And there can only be one conclusion, that the accused is guilty. All relevant testimony? Far from it. There's still a crucial witness, from whom the court is yet to hear a single word of testimony. In that case, call your witness to the stand at once, counsel. Yes, my lord. Tomorrow, if possible. The witness is already on his way and scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Who on earth is this crucial witness? Seishiro Jigoku. The very man allegedly murdered by the Reaper. Judge Jigoku? You found him? Oh my. But the investigations of every policing resource in the capital suggest that Jigoku is already dead. How in the name of God did you find the man? He was located in France during the recess, at the port of Dunkirk. Thanks to one of Mr. Herlock Shlom's famous deductions. Herlock Shlom's. Inspector Gregson almost certainly met with Mr. Jigoku on the night of his death. Because along with Prosecutor Asogi, Gregson was on a mission to assassinate the man. Which means that Seishiro Jigoku is the sole witness. We can clarify exactly what happened aboard the SS Grouse on the 31st of October. Oh yes, quite yes. Well, it appears that it's too soon to move to adjudication at this point. The prosecution concurs. The court must hear Mr. Jigoku's testimony. No judgment should be passed until all testimony has been considered. In that case, I hereby call the end of today's proceedings. Court will reconvene at the same hour tomorrow. No objections from either side? No, my lord. No objections, my lord. We live to fight another day, by the skin of our teeth. To be continued in the next part, yes. Ta-ta, for now.